Good morning, everyone. Welcome to City of Fitchburg Airport Commission meeting, Wednesday, May 17th. I'd like to welcome everybody in attendance, and commissioners in attendance tonight are myself, Clayton Raymond, Beth Walsh to my left, and Rich Liberatore to my right. We also have sitting here Peter Kettle, airport manager. Persons in attendance are Gale Associates. We have Matt Karen and Jackie Marks. Also in attendance is Greg Dinning and Daniel Walton and Deb Silver from Airport Managers. I don't know, what's your title, Deb?
Assistant manager.
Assistant manager. All right, that's your title tonight. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I appreciate it. So before we get down to it, we have last month's meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to, has everyone had a chance to look them over, and do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Vote, 3-0. Commissioner Genesi was not able to make it tonight, so just mark that absentee. I can, yeah. If anybody in the public would like to speak on an item not on the agenda, please feel free to do so. If you're on the agenda, you can just wait until that agenda item comes up, state your name and the town you reside in, and comment on anything you'd like. Okay, so I stapled my papers in incorrect order, but that's all right. We're going to get through this. Action items from previous month's minutes. I believe all action items from previous month's minutes are going to be covered on the agenda items for this month, so we're going to pass on that. Item 2, correspondence to the commission. I have a big no here. Is that true or a typo?
No, that's true.
All right. Thanks, Peter. Item 3, Gale Associates review of ongoing work. Matt or Jackie or both?
Hit you with a combination this evening.
All right.
All right.
Thank you so much. So you'll see the monthly update in front of you that I've provided to commissioners and to Mr. Kettle. Starting off with project number 1, the environmental assessment. So good news, the project is ready to move forward. Contracts are circulating within the city right now via DocuSign. I believe we have 2 more parties that still need to sign from the city, and then that will be signed over to Mass DOT, and then we can really get moving on that work. New Earth Ecological, I was in contact with Peter over the past couple of weeks regarding the wildlife hazard assessment. New Earth Ecological will be conducting that assessment. It's just to give an update, year-long study documenting seasonal patterns of different birds and other wildlife that may have access to the airport or areas surrounding the airport. And the kickoff meeting for that, Peter, thank you for being so flexible in getting that scheduled, will take place next Friday, the 26th of May, to just introduce the project and go over the different access points of the airport and really give Peter a good sense of what will happen during that wildlife hazard site assessment throughout the coming year. Moving on to page 2, so the environmental assessment, like I said, once we have those contracts in place, we can really dive into the work itself and what the environmental assessment, the goal of the environmental assessment is to review all of the different projects that we identified as needs in the airport master plan and review those against National Environmental Policy Act potential impact categories. So just to go over the steps of that process, we'll develop a purpose and need statement for all the proposed projects. We will develop a proposed action to describe the solutions the airport is looking to achieve through those projects. We'll develop alternatives that will be the bulk of the environmental assessment to identify any potential impacts, and then, excuse me, ways to mitigate those impacts and result in the least environmental impact from that project. So we'll evaluate the environmental consequences, and then we'll prepare a full draft environmental assessment document that will be circulated for public review. Following any comments received, any revisions that are necessary as part of that public review process, we will then finalize the environmental assessment and distribute it to MassDOT and FAA. FAA will do their review and hopefully be issuing a finding of no significant impact. And then if there are any revisions to the airport layout plan that need to take place, little things that might change as a result of avoiding those environmental areas, we would then make those subsequent changes to the airport layout plan and then submit that again to FAA so they have the most up-to-date version before moving forward with any projects. So the only actions of the airport would be, Peter has already agreed to attend that wildlife hazard kickoff meeting next Friday, and then, just stay tuned for additional details as we jump into the work. Very excited to start this project with all of you. Does anyone have any questions about the environmental assessment, the process? All right. Hearing none, I'm going to pass it off to Matt, and he's going to talk about the utility expansion.
Sorry,
study.
Matt, can I just ask a question?
Of course.
Or make a statement?
Sure.
The wildlife hazard assessment, because we had two recent events with the deer, I contacted USDA and they said, do we have a depredation permit? And I said no. And they virtually came back saying, you should get one. Because if somebody wants to sue the city, then we need to really have a recourse of what we're doing to try and cut down the deer, which is wildlife.
Understood.
So I've already filled in all the applications. I've sent it away. It's free to the city and to the airport. And I'm waiting to identify two people that Chair Raymond has actually proposed, because they have licenses, both a license to carry and also a wildlife permit. And I'm just waiting for finalisation of that before I can send it off to them, and that will show that we are in process of doing something, and that is sufficient to stop a law case. So, if anything happens going forward. So I just wanted to mention that to the Commission. Thank you. Oh, and does the silly question, the environmental assessment?
Yes.
RAIN is environmental, right?
So it will analyze, the categories typically would be like what you consider like environmental resources. So you'd have your, big thing would be wetlands and waterways and things of that nature.
Okay, what I'm leading to
Okay.
is the 100-year-old flood plan and the 500-year-old flood plan. Does that come into this assessment or not?
The floodplain?
Yeah, we'll take a look at the floodplain impacts.
Because I think it should do, shouldn't it?
Yep.
If we're doing, an environmental assessment, we're in a situation now where we're going to go out and try and get people to put hangars on areas, and I'm going to cover that when we get to the RFP as we move forwards.
Yep.
Okay, Chair? Thank you. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you,
Sorry,
Jackie.
Matt.
Yeah, no problem. If there's no other questions on that, I'm on page 2 of 3 of Gail's update. There's the utility expansion study. Recall we had met in the past. Peter, yourself, and Gail Associates, we met with FAA, or not FAA, we met with MassDOT, we met with Owen to discuss that project and whether or not there'd be some ASMP, Airport Safety and Maintenance Program funding available for that. Owen, MassDOT had some questions and before they would commit to something like that. At last month's commission meeting, I was tasked with going back and putting together a scope of work, which we did do. And if you don't mind just flipping over 2 pages, you can see that there's a draft scope of work that we put together for the utility study. On page 2, it sort of outlines what the project description is. So certain things that this project would include would be the identification of the nearest local water, sewer, gas, and electrical services capable of supporting proposed and future development at the airport. We would evaluate the most feasible and practicable location on airport property to install these utilities, provide estimated engineering costs for these utilities. So we went through, we did that exercise. I have a scope of work in front of the commission this evening. I put together a draft fee, so if you flip through the scope of work, there's an Excel spreadsheet. Let's see here.
Should be the very last page.
Thank you, Jackie. Yep, the very last page of Gail's packet is the proposed fee for this project. I'm not necessarily expecting the commission to make or take a vote on this tonight, but I just wanted to present the scope of work, present the fee, and kick it back over to the commission to decide how best you'd like to move forward with this utility study project.
So I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't listening. Was Mass DOT going to champion? I mean, are they going to help with this?
There were certain questions that we had answered for Mass DOT. We had had some back and forth with Owen. We have not circled back with them since we've prepared this scope of work. I'm just presenting this for the first time this evening to the commission.
Yeah.
I assume that, the commission's probably going to want us to see if there's ASMP funding available to assist in funding this project. Particularly where ASMP is funded at an 80-20 split, so Mass DOT would fund 80%, the commission would fund 20%. If that's what again, you're seeing it for the first time, so I don't know if you need a week or two to digest this and then maybe circle back with some questions, or if you prefer us to start coordinating with Mass DOT to see if there's funding available. Perhaps we can do that concurrently while you're reviewing it. Just kind of leaving it up to the commission at this point in time for any recommendations.
I mean, it's not out of line with what I expected. And we do need to move forward with this project to get any kind of development, kicked off here. So
We do.
Peter, my question to you is there, in our budget now, is there room for a $16,000, fee?
No, but there's room for a $3,000 fee, which is our 20%.
Right.
So we need,
We
need
yeah.
Mass DOT.
My understanding from our meeting was that Owen would not be prepared to move forward unless he has a scope of work to look at. That's what he said, wasn't it?
Yeah, when we spoke with him, it was a lot of hypotheticals and speaking in general terms about what may or may not happen as a result of the master plan and the construction of hangars. There was a lot of discussion around collection pools for the stormwater runoff, Peter, if you recall, and there were some questions surrounding that, but we did not have a scope of work. Like I said, it was just general, broad discussion of what the airport commission's looking for, which essentially what you're looking to do is figure out where the utilities are, how you get them best situated on airport property to allow for seamless development of whether it be aeronautical or non-aeronautical uses, but more than likely it'd be hangars and future hangars at the airport.
Right.
So,
I don't personally believe there's any money in their budget this year, but I think there may be some money in their budget next year. And I, in all honesty, didn't put the $3,000 into our budget this year, but I believe we're making enough money, on the fuel sales, and Debbie can correct me if I'm wrong, that, if that $3,000 was done this year that we had to pay, plus the $16,000 that you want, that Gail want, then, maybe we might have to wait until the commencement of next year's budget, which starts July the 1st.
July 1st, correct.
So I think that's the safe thing to do, in all honesty.
is this the first time you saw this as
Oh, yeah,
well?
you didn't send me this, did
No,
you?
I did not. No, this is
Okay.
the first time.
So we don't even know what's covered in here?
No.
Yet, okay.
No, it's hot off the press, and
Yeah.
like I said, that's why I'm not trying to, I don't want
Yeah.
to, force you to try and advance something that you haven't even taken a look at yet.
Yeah.
I guess maybe what I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, if you will, is we can go circle back with Mass DOT. This is in draft format. Perhaps we can send Mass DOT the draft scope of work, get a sense from them whether or not there's funding available for this. That would give the commission some time to review this, and if you want to, kick any questions you have on this over to Peter, I'm sure Peter can send those our way, and we can address those before our next commission meeting.
Yeah, I would like to, obviously, read through this, see if it, highlights what we're expecting and what we need. And, I would, if all the commissioners could do that, get back to Peter. Peter, you as well, obviously going to read through
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
And if it includes everything that we need to move forward,
But the good thing is, if they agree to give us money as a grant, then this $16,000 would go into that grant, so we wouldn't have to pay that much, so,
yeah.
correct?
You'd be on the hook for the 20% of it,
Right.
correct? Yep.
Of the total grant. So,
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the money to do it immediately, so there's no harm in waiting, because it looks like July before anything can really happen.
And it does kind of dovetail nicely with us hopefully getting the environmental assessment project started. That gives us a chance to dig in on, some of the environmental issues that we may be confronted with the hangars. And then, again, like I said, this would kind of tie in nicely to be like, now let's take a look at where the utilities are going to come from,
Yeah.
given the environmental constraints for development. So,
All right. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate this. So you really don't need a motion other than, let's approach Mass.
Mass DOT?
DOT.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good. We'll do
Makes
that first thing tomorrow.
If we can have a week or two to figure out if this is exactly what we want, that'd be good.
Okay. Do you have DV stuff you are? You do, okay. I'm going to kick it back to Jackie for a minute.
So page 3 of 3, the other items, just wanted to bring to the attention of the commission and to Peter that the airport's disadvantaged business enterprise plan and goal, the 3-year goal, is going to be due on August 1st of this year. So I've already been doing a lot of the legwork behind the scenes and, working internally with the team at Gale to prepare the plan and draft the goal and get that ready for that submission deadline. So just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention and let, Peter know that will, be coming your way. I would say over the next month, for you to take a look at it. It's really the, very similar to the documents that we've prepared in the past. There are some new provisions that were added to the template since, that they provide a template form for the disadvantaged business enterprise plan. So a few things that were added, I went through it, really with a fine-tooth comb and made sure that if anything needed to be added to the airport's plan, it's been added. And then again, just developing that goal for the next 3 years based on the projects that are upcoming.
excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You good
Thank
on
you,
that?
Jackie.
Good on, everybody good on
Good on
DBE?
DBE?
Questions? Okay.
Okay, so on page 3, item number 3, this is the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant Program. So following last month's commission meeting, I was tasked with taking a look at that grant application process and checking to see whether or not the airport would be eligible to submit a grant for EV charging. Based on what I read, I believe that the city of Fitchburg and the airport would be considered a candidate for EV charging stations. I followed that up, Peter, to you, Mr. Chairman, with an email asking, certain questions that I think the commission and the city need to flesh out. Number one, how many charging stations would we be looking to install? Where on airport property would those go? There is some federal and state requirements with respect to your airport layout plan. We would need to revise that to show the location of the EV charging stations on that airport layout plan, submit that through the FAA through their 7460 review process. Of significance is the fact that there is a local share, so this is an 80-20 grant. So the question is, does the city have the 20% share? if you were to be awarded a grant for the EV charging stations. And then another big one that kind of jumped out to me as far as the requirements go are, after 5 years, the maintenance cost becomes solely the responsibility of the City of Fitchburg/Airport Commission. And I would probably recommend that there be some discussion internally with the city to see whether or not it's feasible to fund this thing with a 20% share, and whether or not the city would have, the financial capacity to take on the maintenance costs after that 5-year period of time. So I have not moved forward with any sort of submission of a grant application. Again, I'm just bringing more information to the commission this evening to consider, but happy to help move forward with this project as you all see fit.
Right, thank you. You've just struck a little light in my brain as well. I mean, this really is not just for the airport. This is for the whole city or anywhere that needs to develop this. So maybe we should have a little discussion with the Chief of Staff and the Mayor to see if they propose putting this anywhere else in the city, and we could combine both together or all together.
We were talking the other day, Peter, I think there's a June 15th
Right.
deadline, if I'm not mistaken,
Right.
somewhere around that time frame. So just something to keep in mind. You have
We've
about a
got a
month's
month.
time, correct?
All right, I will check up on that, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's something the airport should ignore, but, I don't, there's very few electric cars in the world. There'll be more by June, I suppose.
It was brought up to us by the Fitchburg Pilots Association, and, I always like to look into what they're requesting because
Yeah.
they're advantageous to the airport, and
Yeah.
that's why it was on the agenda. So
Yeah.
I think if we discuss it with the city, we may be able to move forwards together, or they say, no, we're not doing it yet. They may say, no, let's give it another 5 years to get the population up. I don't know. But I'll take that on.
Okay. Well, let me know how we can jump in, Peter, and we'll
I
happy
mean,
to help you
this,
out.
this could be $1 million project, you're saying?
I don't know.
If the city's involved, yes, but I don't see just for 2 charging stations it's going to be $1 million,
Right.
I mean, it's just like that jack down here, it's the same thing,
You'd like to think so. right.
And with respect to the maintenance, I don't see that being a problem because it's only another transference of electricity, isn't it? What can go wrong? But saying that, I guess things can go wrong, But
This is recorded, Peter.
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Well, we're going to action item Peter Kettle.
Yes.
And, get back to-
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
No problem.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
And I have just one last item that I wanted to bring up tonight, which is the reselection of the consulting contract. So Gale Associates, we're in good standing with the city of Fitchburg with respect to the contract. We're under contract. I think it was a 5-year term. I think we're probably 3 years into it. Regardless of that, though, at the completion of an airport master plan, the FAA requires that an airport commission go back out for reselection, regardless of where we are in the process of the existing contract. So with the capital improvement program process coming up, that's your CIP process with FAA and MassDOT. Those meetings are usually scheduled sometime July, August timeframe. That's when we sit down and we take a look at all the capital needs for the airport. We project out a 5-year plan for the airport. Not that you necessarily need to stick to that, but it's usually 5 to maybe even 8 years worth of projects that are a result of the master plan process. Where I'm going with this is before we get into those CIP meetings with the FAA and MassDOT, it'd be a good idea for the City of Fitchburg, the Airport Commission, to button up the reselection process, the consulting selection process, get an engineering firm under contract. Hopefully that's Gale Associates. Hopefully we've done a good job for the City of Fitchburg and the airport. But get that buttoned up so that when we go into those CIP meetings, the airport can say, yep, we're current with our consultant selection process. We're ready to move forward with whatever the next projects are. And so I'm happy to work with Peter and I think it's Mary Delaney, the procurement officer who handles these things. I know she did it the last time around. And work with whomever in the city to make that happen. And I would just recommend that you all take a vote to do that tonight and start working with the procurement office to do that.
Yeah, if we're not current, certainly we've got to move forward. So, let's start the reselection process. We need a
motion for that?
motion to start that process.
So moved.
We have a motion. Second, myself. Could I have a vote? All right, we're going to start that process, Matt.
Okay, sounds good. I'll help
See who
out wherever I
comes out the
can.
winner.
What's that?
See who comes out the winner.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, moving on to item 4, the Fitchburg Pilots Association. Would anybody wish to speak, or does Peter have anything?
Daniel, do you want to make a little statement? Because I put down Young Eagles Wings and Wheels review.
Daniel Walton Holden. The planning for the Airfest on June the 18th is going ahead as normal. The one thing we did find out in the last 24 hours was that even to sell packaged foods, we do need a food permit, so that an application's gone in for that. But everything's just moving ahead as normal. Our intent as well, just to give you a heads up, is we're going to invite, the mayor and everyone here to attend, and expect, an email from myself probably sometime, in the next week or so.
Okay, great.
That's it.
Thank you.
Okay, can I just comment on the first bit then, please? The Wings and Wheels review. It's all right, I'll do it. It was a terrible day. It was raining on and off all day. Even so, the Ford V8 Club did make a profit.
Nice.
Which was very, very good. But my understanding is that the Pilots Association have about 1.5 tons of food still left because they didn't get the people in to eat the food. So
We lost $800. We had a lot of food left over. We were fortunate that a lot of it had been frozen and was not thawed at any point. So we were able to give some of it back, or sell it back. Some of the foods that we'd cooked or thawed and other things were refrozen and sold to people at FPA. So I think we'll be close to break even by the time we're done. The last I heard, the gap was down to about $150.
oh, good.
But that is our largest fundraiser of the year. So in previous years, we might have netted, maybe $2,000 to $3,000 to put in the FPA coffers. So this year, if we're lucky, we're just,
Break even.
no donation into the FPA coffers. We have plenty of money in the bank for now. It doesn't put us in any financial harm. But disappointing. We can't control the weather.
No, fortunately not. Thank you.
Item 5, new business. Item number 1, asbestos building.
And there is only one item on the new business, by the way, so it's not going to be a very long meeting. At the back of the airport, next to Twin City Airmotive, the FBO, there's an old building in there that's actually internally clad with asbestos. And about 2.5 years ago, we got a quotation to have it removed, and it was something like $40,000 to $50,000. Well, as we're coming up now to doing the RFP, what I'd like to propose to the Commission is that we take that area, it's 1.04 acres, and make that part of the RFP, but with the caveat that whoever wants to put hangars there, the caveat is that they actually have to pay for the removal of that building. So that's just one thought. And as we go down the rest, you'll see the other 3 thoughts that I've had in terms of the RFP. Okay?
Yeah. What building number is that?
It's number 6.
Thank you. Okay. Old business, item 6. Sub-item A. Electric charging stations.
We've covered it.
We're good. We're moving along.
Can I now recuse myself?
Before you leave, minimum standards, item 2.3. In progress, no action to this point.
Chair, can I just say something very quickly? You can stay. In the previous meeting, you said that you were going to defer the decision or any opinion about independent contractors
Yes.
from the previous meeting to this meeting or beyond. So I just wanted to bring that back up again, whether
Yeah.
you've thought further about it or you're going to continue deferring it.
Noted.
Okay.
Yeah. Item C, Air Methods, Hangar 18 sublease.
Yeah, my understanding of that is that that has been completed with Rich Corley and Jake Woodford, who actually are the main tenants for Building 18.
And at last week's meeting, we had a vote to allow that to happen? We talked about a sublease.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, okay. So it's in progress.
Yes.
Thank you. Item D, RFP land lease, 20 runway area and Air Methods. Go ahead, Peter.
Right. Air Methods, they want to move ahead as quickly as possible. That's the new Life Flight helicopter that's now stationed at the airport and becomes fully operative as of the 1st of June, 24 hours a day. They're doing really well at the moment. They're in and out of the airport doing what they're supposed to do, which is good for the city and the surrounding cities. We need to identify a place for them to put up a new hangar for the helicopter and also for living accommodation. So on the sheet that you have in your left hand, Mr. Chair, you'll see there's 3 areas there. There are potential areas for new hangar buildings. The first one's 870,000 square feet, which is in the old 20 runway area. The second one is 12,000 square feet, which is next to the FPA hangar to the right-hand side, in between the FPA hangar and Nagel Aircraft. And the third one is the 39,000 square feet where the asbestos building is located. So they are 3 that I'm proposing to the Commission that we go out to RFP with. So I would like a yes or a no on that at this time, because we really need to get on with it unless we do only for the Air Methods hangar. I don't know if that's allowed in an RFP, though. I think you have to go out for more than one unit. I'm not sure. I don't know the law.
So I just, one question. Are all these suitable for a helicopter operation?
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. I mean, the one that we originally identified was the one right next to the Bullock hangar, next to Hangar 18.
But that's not even identified here. Or
Yeah.
is that in the...
Yeah, it is. It's in the 870,000 square feet.
Within that area?
Yes. Yes. So, Attorney Pusateri, is it possible to go out for an RFP just for, or do you have to do an RFP to allow Life Flight to build a hangar on the airport?
We don't have to do an RFP. I think when you're dealing with an aviation use, if we're going to classify this as an aviation use, there's no specific rule or regulation that requires it. The general idea behind our prior practice is to have some type of best business practice. And typically having an RFP go out would be announced to the world that we're looking for this use and we're looking for some competition and some bids and maybe even some better ideas of what the singular potential tenant would offer us. Best business practices could also include getting 3 specific proposals if we wanted to reach out to specific vendors of this type of service or specific potential tenants of this type of service. So
I didn't know if there was something special because Lifelight is special. Lifelight is special for the city of Fitchburg. It's special for Lunenburg and Leominster. And I didn't know if there was anything in particular legally we could do to say, look, this is a fantastic advantage for the city. Can we allocate an area of land on the airport for them to actually have that area to put up the new hangar and the building?
I think we want to avoid the appearance that we've already made up our mind what we want, and we want to go out into the public and give the public an opportunity to bid on that space.
All right.
And if it's going to be through an RFP, or if it's going to be out soliciting some type of proposals, and I caveat my remarks on saying, that's assuming that we're going to be able to classify this, and I think it's fair to classify this as an aviation use.
Right.
So I would encourage us to stick with a more public process.
With the standard process, the RFP, go out?
Yes.
Okay, now,
Even knock on a few doors, just to make sure that we're getting a competitive.
right. I mean, I don't know of any other life flights in the area that want to come here. So,
Well, that's what the RFP is for.
yeah, no, it is. I understand
It
that.
could be a local ambulatory service that has some funding to start up a helicopter service.
Right. Can you just pass that to Attorney Pusateri, please? Thank you. And thirdly, as you all know, that the airport is built on a floodplain, and it's predicted to be a 100-year-old floodplain. And it's my understanding that FEMA have been updating their floodplain documents. And I believe certain areas of the city, the floodplain is reducing, whereas on the airport, it's increasing. Don't understand why, but I did speak to FEMA, and they sent me these documents that you can see in your hand. And the blue area is the 100-year-old floodplain. And if you look, the 100-year-old floodplain actually covers the current new administration building. But there's only a 0.5% probability that that could take place in 100 years. And the orange area is the 500-year-old floodplain, which is only at 0.2% probability of taking place in 500 years. So this really has to be published with the RFP when it goes out, because this is public knowledge. It's got to be known. And talking to the building department, no problem. No problem at all, because they can give buildings that are okay in a floodplain. And I believe the maximum flood on the old 100-year-old flood was only 1 foot in the hangar. That was in hangars 2 and 3. They got flooded completely. So, you know, the possibility of that happening again, I think we've gone 100 years now. I don't know when the 100-year-old flood one was. Does anybody have a date for that? I've tried to find out. I can't see it, but I know. Oh no, it's not. It was 1943, I think, on those photographs, Debbie, in the hall there. So, you know, this is all information that needs to be out to the public. And there's 2 areas on that area, on this plan that I've given you, that actually show that the area that's next to the Nagel Hangar and up to the Pilots Association is not in the floodplain. It's completely clear. So a Lifelight hangar and living accommodation could go there, and they could also go above. If you take hangar building 17, which is the last of the 4 FPA, Fitchburg Condominium Trust hangars, that area above there is also outside of the floodplain. So there's quite a large area where there is no consequence of having a floodplain within those hangars above that area. They would have to build in, I don't remember the name that you called it, but I call them catch basins, Matt. And once I received this from FEMA, I looked at what they'd actually put down here, and it doesn't accommodate the brand new runway. And the brand new runway has catch basins. I believe there's 4 catch basins on that area. And I contacted the gentleman responsible for this, and he said, wow, he said, you better send me those. So you were gracious enough to get Nick to send me those documents that I forwarded to them. And maybe this isn't as bad as what we think it is because of the new runway. So we're waiting for that information. All right? And hopefully I'll have that by the time that we come to the next meeting. All right? So are there any questions?
It was a good catch. Good catch.
Thank you.
So not concerning the floodplain, but back to Air Methods. Are they, do you know how many year lease they may be intention?
Yeah, forever.
Forever lease?
Yeah.
They want to,
Yeah.
what do you call it? In perpetuity?
I would never use such language when.
No, I have it recorded.
It will be initially 50 or 60 years, won't it?
Well, I think we always start with the assumption of the statutory criteria, which is a 20-year lease. And then we want to go beyond the 20-year lease, we'll have to go to City Council and seek the City Council's approval. If the City Council thinks that it's a wise decision to grant a longer lease, a 40-year or a 60-year lease, we could certainly take a look at that. I just don't, and I feel like I should at this point in time, have a general understanding about the economics surrounding the length of these leases. Is 60 years the equivalency of a sale? Is it the usefulness of any building is gone maybe after 20 years? So we should stick with the statutory criteria for 20 years. If they want longer than 20 years, we'll have to go to City Council, and it's not impossible that City Council would object to that length of the lease. Although they've approved one in the past.
I mean, once again, being outspoken, I don't consider this a normal situation. This is a benefit to the city. It's helping people. It's, it's something that we should have and have it forever. I mean, if I'm dying and I need to get to a hospital quickly, I want a life flight.
Yeah.
And I'd sooner have it here than come from Worcester or Boston because of the time. So, I'm sorry.
Well, and then, if I can continue, Mr. Chair, we should keep an eye on any length of lease, whether it's 20 years, 40 years, that the continuous operation of the life flight service would be a primary component to that lease.
Right.
Because that's what we really want. What we really want is the service and the revenue.
Right. But forgive the question, does that affect the new land lease that you've just completed, or do you need to make some amendments to it?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Can we have an answer? Can we have
The
an
new
answer?
land lease for the potential,
Yeah, for the RFP.
No, I think there's a space in there to apply either 20, 40, 60 years.
so
I can't remember.
Yeah.
the
can't remember.
question is maybe twofold. The question is the term of the lease, the length of time. We want to just reevaluate that for the RFP. And then the second would be making sure we maybe add a provision in there to include continuous operation if it's going to be for the life flight. So if we're going to put this lease together, you and I worked on this. If it's going to be attached to an RFP for the life flight service, let's make sure that those two provisions are reviewed specifically.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it would be wise to start with Mary Delaney, an office visit beforehand. So
Oh, yeah, that-
come to her with your needs or wants, and she can help us develop what that RFP should look like.
Right.
I mean,
No,
otherwise,
I agree with
end
you.
up with something you never intended,
Yeah,
just
the-
by omitting some language.
No, that's true. I mean, that's the reason why I brought it up now, because the attorney's here and we've got his viewpoint. So now we can go to Mary and say,
Yeah.
this is the attorney's viewpoint. So,
Okay.
all right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Item E, Hangar 1 agreement.
That is with Mr. Corley and Mr. Woodford, and I spoke to Mr. Corley last Friday, and he said he would be signing it this week. I haven't received it back yet.
Okay. I'll call it a Peter action item.
Yes, sir.
Item F, Greg Dinning. Greg is here. Do you want to speak first?
No.
Anyone? Okay. Mr. Dinning, would you like to speak?
I may say a few words then, Greg, if I may, before you speak. Is that all right? Mr. Dinning and I have been communicating backwards and forwards, and I actually advised him that you were away on business at Las Vegas. And he said, well, what's he doing there? Is he a slot machine man? I said, no, he's on business. He's on business. So I said, but what he did say is that he's going to put to the Commission that the liability insurance for what Mr. Dinning is proposing should be $500,000 as stipulated in the old 1973 agreement. And that's where Mr. Dinning and I had finished.
Yeah, so I mean, I had spoken to Peter I actually spoke to Peter about 6 days after the last meeting, because I was going to get back to you as far as what the current standards state. Again, it's gray. But I couldn't find anywhere in the 1973 standards that said anything about $1 million, and the only thing I can find in that agreement is the $500,000 liability and injury and accidental insurance. So obviously I cannot implement standards that haven't been approved yet. So in accordance with the current standards, we're asking you to carry a $500,000 policy.
So, Greg Dinning, Shirley. So basically, we're just going with the old minimum standards.
I have no choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to wrap this up, so is this final approval? What do you need from me at this point? What does Peter need from me at this point? Do you need proof of insurance? Do I have to get final approval from you?
I believe proof of insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. So I bring you the proof of insurance, and you're now basically authorized to.
Yeah.
permit.
Well, I don't know. That's up to the Commission to say I am at this meeting.
Yeah, so at last
Got it.
meeting, we agreed to have you go ahead with your business venture for this flying. And I was going to get back to you on, and you asked what the insurance was going to entail. And I said, well, I'll check into it. I can barely read this thing. And that's what we come up with, it's $500,000. So if you would like us to, or if the commission would like to motion a $500,000 agreement based on 73 standards, I'm open to that. Attorney Christian.
So my question, without knowing the answer, is if you approve new standards, how is that impacting this gentleman? Is he relying on a 500 and then this new standards come in next month or the 2 months later, and then it's a bait and switch and now we need $1 million? And then my second question would be, if we have a specialized vote for this particular event, how will that apply, or will that now exclude the gentleman from any standards in which we adopt in the future? So I just want to clarify those two questions in my mind.
So, in my mind, and the commission can chime in anytime, we have the 73 standards now. It says $500,000. So theoretically, we do not need a motion for that. On the question of if we approve it now and then new standards come out in 3 months, do we expect you and everyone else on the airport to increase their insurance to $1 million so they conform? If I was a business owner on the airport, that would be a thorn in my side. So it is my thought that the policy should run a year, but can we legally do that?
Maybe when we finalize the new standards, we can provide for clarification about a year's grace period or something to that effect.
That would be my hope. And I'm willing to
Okay.
stipulate that provision. So we'll do that.
Okay, so are you going to move something here? Can you summarize what we've decided, what you've decided?
Well, you need to be current with the 1973 standards.
Yeah.
And it is my intention to allow a 1-year grace period if the standard increases, well, the standard's going to increase to $1 million.
Okay,
So I guess you could say, if right now is May, you get yourself an insurance policy, in all likelihood, it's going to be 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
In July, let's say minimum standards comes out and it's 1 million, you're going to want to re-up your policy in May. Unless you can go 2 months with a policy, but it'll be mandatory 1 year after this is
okay, that's fine.
updated. Okay. Yeah.
That's fine. And you might not have it done by next,
I'm sorry?
you might not have it done until next year anyway, so
Okay.
Boy,
that was a joke.
I can't disagree. So.
Okay, so I will proceed with my planning, which has been on hold for a few months. And when I get the insurance, I take it to Peter and he can sign it off. Okay,
Yeah.
that's great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Can our minutes make sure we reflect that the minimum standards would be applicable to any to the renewal of policies, so that when we do make that vote in 2 or 3 months, everyone doesn't have to drop right there and go out and get a brand new policy, but when their
Right.
policy is set to expire and must be renewed,
Yes.
Yes.
that's when the standard would.
That's my hope,
Yeah.
Okay.
intention.
Okay, so I'll keep an eye on that then, too.
Okay. You know, Peter, the clearest example of it I've seen.
It's not
yet.
bad.
It's not
Very
bad,
good.
yeah.
Yeah. Where'd you get that from?
I have no idea. In my black bag,
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Item G, Crawford Street safety, Nick Erickson. This was about the guardrails.
it was. If you remember, everybody, the last time we looked at Jersey barriers and also rumble strips, and the commissioner for the DPW actually gave us the prices for those, and the commission asked for pricing for the barriers. And Commissioner Erickson offered his apologies for this evening's meeting. He's just had a baby, and he asked me to say that he is working on getting those costs for the barriers as we speak, and he'll have it for the next meeting.
Barriers and/or guardrails?
The guardrails, I beg your pardon.
Okay,
Not
yeah.
the barriers, the guardrails.
Yep. Thank you. Item H, USDA.
We did that, didn't we? We did that in the overview at the start.
Okay. Item I, PPG.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify again that at the last commission meeting, the commission agreed to allow the PPG pilots to come on to be trained, and I have a date of June the 17th to the 30th and July the 8th to the 21st. And that actually coincides with the aerofair, which will be brilliant. So, yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Very good. Item F, financial review, approval of commitments and abatements.
I'm still waiting for a full list of what the situation is with the tenants in terms of who's paid, who hasn't paid. The Munis system has been playing up a little bit, and I've been promised it in the very near future. So, and when I get that, we'll start acting on it. Hopefully everybody's fully paid up. So,
All right, so there's a glitch.
yes.
Another Peter action item.
It's
You're going to be in action all month.
I always am, Rich.
Yeah.
You know.
Executive session, again, has to be announced prior to the meeting. There isn't one tonight. Date and time of next regular meeting is June 21st, 2023, 6 p.m. here at the Legislative Building. I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Boy, pretty enthusiastic about that.
You asked for a motion?
I did,
I'm giving you
yes.
a motion.
Second?
Second.
Rich, not so enthusiastic.
I'm giving you an emotional motion.
Vote, yeah, 3-0. Motion to adjourn. It is, wow,
7:01?
yeah, 7 o'clock.
Oh, really? That's good. That's good.